Hi, Gayatri. Thank you for doing this. First of all, thank you for agreeing to talk about this. And in today's meeting, I want to talk about what you do in the context of anxiety, because on my channel, I mainly speak about anxiety. And because you have had an experience with anxiety, and that's also a lot of the work that you do now, I wanted to
Yeah.
keep the focus on anxiety because I know you, and I anybody who knows you will know that there's so much we can talk with you about. So I have to decide on what. So for everybody watching, we're going to speak about anxiety and keep it around that. So your Instagram
Okay.
bio describes you as somebody who works in the space of emotional regulation. What is emotional
Yes.
regulation?
Yeah. So for first of all, thank you, Grace, for inviting me here and giving us this space to talk about something which is not often spoken about. So yes, I'm glad that we're talking about this today here. And regarding my work as an emotional regulation coach, so emotional regulation is about when events happen in life. Now, life is very unpredictable, so there are going to be events that happen, situations that come up where we need to show up in a way that you're not prepared for. Okay, so like there is a disaster that happens and we show up for that disaster, so we are prepared for that disaster. Yeah, we know where is the first aid kit, we know whom to reach out, there are helpline numbers, there's everything when there is disaster happening, and there is a disaster management protocol that we have. Even for physical hurt, like when you sprain an ankle or when you fracture a bone, you know what to do. You know, when you get hurt, you are going to apply an ointment or you're going to put a band-aid, you know, all of those things. But when there is rejection, when there are emotional wounds, when there is rejection, when there is neglect, when there is somebody insulting you, saying things which hurt you, there is a breakup, there is a loss, there is grief, all of these things, when they happen, there is nobody who prepares us for that. We don't speak about how to handle those things and how to work around those things, those emotional wounds. So when those emotional wounds happen, chances are sometimes we are just suppressing all our emotions. We are told to be strong. Sometimes we snap at people. We go into crying spells. We are unable to decide, take actions. Our productivity suffers. Our relationships, the way we communicate with our partner, parents, colleagues, children, it all changes. It all shifts. Okay. So we are unable to regulate ourselves in a way wherein we are able to cope that challenge and come up with something which is going to help us. Okay, so now with the heartbreak, maybe you go into that space of maybe you're going to alcohol, you're going to shopping, you're eating, emotional eating, you're doing things which are not helping you in your regular life. So
Mhm.
that is emotional dysregulation, to bring
Okay.
it down. Yeah, so you're not, so maybe you're just scrolling, like in today's context we just go into a scrolling spree, or you're
Okay.
going and buying things, shopping, you are numbing those sensations of whatever that you are experiencing, you're numbing it, you're suppressing
Mhm.
it. We are not able to regulate that space, like okay, this happened, and you experience it for some time, and then you're like, okay, so what is it that I can do about it, and you focus on working on probable solutions, or you're
Mhm.
asking for support if you are feeling low and you're asking for support, and you're not getting into behaviors and actions which are unhelpful, which are not helpful for your everyday living, like you're snapping at somebody and you're getting
Mhm.
angry, you're
Mhm.
harming yourself or others. So
Mhm.
all of that is a space of emotional dysregulation. So through my
Okay.
work, I help, especially I work with women and teens. They are my major spaces where I am interested with working. So
Mhm.
I ensure that they are able to handle the life transitions, and they are emotionally in a space where they're developing that muscle, like how you develop your physical muscle. So when you have to
Mhm.
pick up something heavy, you
Mhm.
have the strength. The
Mhm.
same way, when you are prepared, when your emotional muscle is regulated, when it is
Mhm.
prepared, what happens is when life throws you some challenge, you are able to navigate it in a much better way with
Mhm.
less damage to yourself and the people around you.
Mhm.
That is regulation.
So is this something that we are born with? Is this something that is inbuilt? Because we call it
Yes.
dysregulation. So are we
Yeah.
born with the
Yes.
capability of regulating ourselves?
Yeah. So as children, what happens is we are learning from our environment. We are modeling from our parents, the adults in our life, the caregivers, whoever we are interacting with, the environment where
Hmm.
we are growing up. Okay.
Hmm.
So nobody teaches children how to walk. Children observe the people around them and then they start walking. So it's a modeled behavior for them. The same way, emotional regulation is also a modeled behavior. Like how all the fears are also, most of the fears that children feel are also from the environment, from the people around them. Yeah. So when a parent or an adult who is caregiving the child is unable to regulate their own emotions or talk about it freely, so it will happen. We will not be always regulated. That will not happen. Okay. So there will be moments, life happens, we are human. So
So
there will be
it's
moments
a
when
day
I
to
may
day.
yell. Yeah, it's a day-to-day thing. I may yell, I may snap, but if at that moment I'm pausing and telling my child, oh, this is what happened, I was irritated, I was frustrated, I didn't get a lot of physical rest, so I
Correct.
snapped at you,
So what
I'm
I'm
sorry, and
understanding is
takes,
that
yeah,
it's a moment to moment thing. So I can't
yes, yes,
say necessarily that I am emotionally dysregulated. It's like saying that I am a hypertensive, or saying it's like that. It's like,
yeah,
no, I can
yeah,
choose to, with the tools and the skills that I have, I can
yes,
choose
yeah,
to emotionally regulate myself now,
yes,
or
yeah.
not choose to do it if I don't have the skill.
And it, yeah, and also it is a very contextual thing. There are certain contexts in which there are certain people with which you will be in a better space to regulate yourself, and there will be certain contexts where you might not be able to do that. Yeah. So understanding, having that awareness that these are my triggers, these are my spaces where I tend to be regulated, and these are my spaces where I would need help. Like for me specifically, when I'm traveling, I tend to think a lot, and I'm like thinking, oh my god, what if I forget this, what if this happens, what if they in the in the at the airport this happens. So I am in that spree. So I have my husband and my daughter who will be like, okay mama, stop. So they'll be in that space and they'll help me out over there. So having somebody in certain context. But if it's like a government space where you have to go to a bank or go to a government office and get paperwork done, my
Hmm.
husband is the one who feels all that anxiousness, and
So we
I'm the
all
one
have
who am
different
like,
triggers, you're
yeah,
saying. We all have a different
yes,
triggers.
yes, yeah,
Understanding what our triggers are, and
yeah,
then working in tandem with that to then be able to
yes,
regulate yourself and to
yes,
also. So now I want to know what are some of the signs, early signs that we could pick up where we can know that we are heading towards being emotionally dysregulated before it
mm-hmm,
becomes a full blown anxiety situation or a panic situation. What I'm seeing around and also what I experienced with my own self,
mm-hmm,
that we
mm-hmm,
are either okay or we are anxious.
mm-hmm,
There is no middle ground. There's no middle. It's like you're either okay, where there
mm-hmm,
may be a lot happening, or you are then there's a pathology.
so fear is something, yes, which is natural. It's a natural response, it's a safety response which is there. Yeah. So fear is like when I see a snake in front of me, it's important, I need to get scared, there is a snake, I need to protect
Hmm.
myself, so I need to do something in that moment. So that fear is natural and necessary at that moment.
Hmm.
But if it's like notice if there is a public speaking event and I need to go
Hmm.
and speak in front
Hmm.
of people, so now there is no real danger. Okay.
Hmm.
But maybe because I had an experience in childhood wherein I was speaking in public, I fumbled, I
Hmm.
people started laughing at me, or
Hmm.
I'm too scared. I'm thinking what all can go wrong in that public speaking event, that I'm asking questions, people are asking me questions, and I don't know how to answer, and all the probable things that can go wrong about that particular event. Now,
Hmm.
that is not necessary.
Hmm.
Okay, that is not necessary. And with what intensity you're experiencing it, if it is leading me to like feeling the heart palpitations, I'm sweating, I'm feeling like my hands and feet have gone cold, and
Hmm.
I'm feeling nausea, I'm having this urge to go and pee multiple times, maybe all these, like something is happening in my stomach, the
Hmm.
intensity is so high. Now that is an
Very
anxiousness
somatic.
episode. Yeah, that's very somatic, like in the body experience for you. Yeah. So one of the things is awareness as to when it is happening in certain situations. We don't come to know. This is all like a compound effect in your body, like
I
you won't come
agree.
to know, right?
Yes.
Because it's like for me in the case of type 2 diabetes, like in 2020 when I was diagnosed with it, so in 2019 when I took a medical test, everything was normal. Then
Hmm.
2020 happened, your pandemic began, everything, I don't know, I was very well and everything, and then
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
2021
And
this
then
happened and it
suddenly.
came like a shock. Yeah, it
Hmm.
came like a shock because I'm somebody who works out regularly, I'm somebody who's very mindful about my food and everything, and my sugar levels were like below 100 in 2019. So
Oh.
I never thought in 2 years
Okay.
it's going to
Hmm.
peak up like that, right?
Hmm.
So giving that physical example, these are things where you cannot be like fully mindful as to how what is happening. Some checkpoints is how is your sleep, like understanding your
Okay.
sleep, because
Hmm.
multiple times what happens is we are sleep deprived for a long period of time.
Correct.
That also affects. Okay,
Hmm.
getting your blood work done, very important, like especially if you have vitamin D
Hmm.
deficiencies, B12 deficiency, B6, all these
Okay.
vitamin deficiencies if you have, and
Okay.
thyroid issues or these kind of stuff, that can also affect the and trigger anxiety episodes, and like a full blown space, like it piles up, right? It comes, it
Hmm.
piles up, it
Hmm. Hmm.
compounds. So that's a
Hmm.
checkpoint that you can do, is your blood work.
Okay.
Understanding your diet, very important, like are you eating a lot of junk food and are you not getting movement, like are you drinking a
Okay.
lot of coffee? because a lot of anxious episodes are also connected to your gut health.
Hmm.
So one of the things that personally helped me was
Hmm.
working with my diet, working with my nutrition.
Hmm.
That's like the first step that also helped me to understand that when I'm eating certain foods, it's
Hmm.
triggering something in my stomach and it's
Hmm.
giving me those sensations. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to work on that. So working on your diet and your movement, like you're sitting for a lot of time, there is no movement. So
Hmm.
these are all places where you can check, like, did I get my sleep? How
Hmm.
is the quality of sleep? Not just 7 8 hours of sleep, but the quality of sleep.
Hmm.
Am I
Hmm.
waking up multiple times? What's happening? Yeah, so that is something which you can pay attention to. Again, the snapping episodes, like how quickly am I getting frustrated or irritated? That is very important for us to know. When we are okay, we may not get irritated by something. Like if somebody cuts us in traffic, we might not get that irritated. We might like, ha, theek hai, rehne do. It might be like that. But when we are not okay, when it's piled up for a long time, something really small, like somebody not even holding the lift for us, can also feel very
Yes.
frustrating, and we might go into that spiral of, mera life aisa hi
Yes,
hai,
yes.
and
I had
we
one
end
of
up
those
break.
days yesterday, in fact. That
So that
every
is,
every
yeah.
little thing seemed to be being blown out of proportion by me.
Yeah, so that is where you need to be aware that you need physical rest, you need
Hmm.
sensory rest. Now
Hmm.
with pandemic, what has happened, our sensory rest has reduced a lot. Now when I say sensory rest, it's about your visual and auditory.
And
So
with the
visually
phone.
you are so visually we are on the phone, and especially the short form content has increased a lot. So the short form
Absolutely.
content is giving you an emotional peak and then a crash, a peak and a crash, like you're
I
watching
think
one
also
reel which,
because we are having
yeah.
to make a lot of decisions now, a lot of shopping is happening
Yes,
online.
yes.
We
That
are
was my third point, the
yeah. Oh,
cognitive
sorry.
rest. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the third point, the cognitive rest. So
Okay.
this second space of sensory rest is so important. Again, we are listening to a lot of podcast, news, music. We are
Hmm.
always having something for us. So there is also a lot of construction work going on, a lot of sound. We're becoming very sensory stimulated constantly. We are having that. So that's
Hmm.
where the sensory rest has to come. Like every day, few minutes, few hours we need to keep aside for ourselves. And I'm like, no, I'm going to give sensory rest to myself. A
Hmm.
lot of information coming to our way as well. At
Hmm.
very quick intervals we are getting a lot of information, so our brain is processing a lot of information.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
cognitive rest, again, we are making a lot
Hmm.
of decisions, we are comparing a lot. Flipkart se lena hai, Myntra se lena hai, Amazon se lena hai, kahan se lena hai,
Hmm.
kya lena hai. There is a lot of user generated content, and we are consuming that,
Hmm.
asking ourselves, ye kharidu, wo kharidu, a lot of things going on, right? So these 3 points, if we bring mindfully in a check, like weekly once you're going to check, or once in 15 days
Okay.
you're
Okay.
checking with yourself, am I getting the physical rest, am I getting the sensory rest, am I getting my cognitive rest, how is my diet? Even once in 15 days, even once in a month. I know if people are busy working, a lot of things going on, passive income streams working, so many things, hustle.
Hmm. Hmm.
So be mindful of these things, what kind of content you're consuming, who are you watching, what are you reading. There's multiple things happening now in the ecosystem. So, and also the village that we want to care for, the village we need to care for us, is not there next to us, right? And a lot of clickbait articles, a lot of information coming with transitions, with catchy titles, hooks, and all of that. This all is affecting our mental health. It's not just one thing, so it's kind of piling up, and then all of that is coming out. And then what you spoke about pathology, like then we are like in that spectrum, and we need medicines, or we need
Hmm.
space where we have to go there. So these are
Hmm.
some checkpoints which you can take
Hmm.
care of.
So
Yeah.
this thing that you do, this work of emotional regulation,
Mhm.
is this
Mhm.
as somebody who deals with who's facing anxiety, let's say,
Mhm.
and, whether I am or I'm not on medication, and I get to know about
Mhm.
emotional regulation, is this something a therapist is going to work with you, or are there
Mhm.
specially trained people like you who do emotional regulation coaching?
Mhm. So the point here is, yes, a therapist also does this. So the difference between a therapist and me is education. So a therapist is somebody who's done a BA and MA, especially in psychology, or BSc clinical psychology, who has taken education in that field of psychology
Hmm.
through the academic way. Okay, so since I was a commerce graduate, and so my interest in emotional regulation came through my own experience in therapy. So when I went to therapists, 2 3 therapists, and then when I worked, and I found it very intriguing that, oh, these are all the ways in which my brain is working. So when I got the knowledge, and I remember this
You are
therapist I
trained
used to
in
meet,
so
and
many things. You are trained in so many
yeah,
things, and you are
yes,
very well trained. I
modalities,
have experienced
yeah,
that
yes.
that you are very well trained.
Yeah, so that is the difference between traditional therapy and what I do. So the interest came at that moment, and I started learning these modalities for myself. There was no intention of quitting my job. I was working in corporate, I had no intention of doing that. But as I kept learning, and as I kept assisting my therapist in her sessions, or she became my supervisor, and I was being with her when she was taking workshops and all of that, she sensed that I am able to do this, and she said, you have an ability to do this, so would you want to learn it more in depth? So yes, so I went ahead with multiple trainings, and this was like in 2011. So we didn't have anything online, so everything was offline. So I had to travel to Bangalore, to different locations where the workshops and trainings used to happen. So it was a lot of physical thing where I was working with other people, taking notes, and a lot of guidance which I received from my mentors as well. So doing that, after like 4 5 years, I recognized that I like this, and I was getting good feedback from the clients I worked with. So I thought I'm going to switch it. But I couldn't call myself a therapist, because in India you need the license, you need to have
And
that
fair
education
enough,
and
fair
license,
enough.
which is fair
Yeah,
enough, right?
yeah.
So then I had to call myself something, because I didn't know what to call myself. And one of the clients I was working with, she said that you are so good with emotions, and you're so good with helping me regulate my emotions.
And this is
And
a
that's why I
perfect
said,
title.
yeah.
It's a perfect
Yeah,
title.
so then I thought this is good, so I took it
Yes.
up, and I was like, I'm going to use this as the word, and it's more like a coaching space, more like educating them also.
You mentioned
Yeah.
that you were from the commerce background and then you
Yeah.
completely changed the direction of your career, so to say. I want to ask you, and it's entirely up to you how much you want to share.
Yeah.
What was your
Yeah.
experience that led you to this path?
Yes. So it was not that I knew it was anxiety. So I was 11 when I experienced the first time this thing, especially after my mother's death. So my mom and my grandmother, they both passed away in the same month. This is the same
Oh,
month, the month of
oh,
May.
oh.
Yeah, my grandmother passed on 3rd May, and my mother passed on 28th of May. So it was back to back two losses at the age of 11. And right from childhood, growing up in a family where I experienced a lot of abuse, experienced a lot of neglect, emotional neglect from my family, I knew something was off. Like children sense it. So I was also sensing something was off, but I didn't know, I didn't have a name to it, and I was experiencing it. So after my mother's passing away is when I these thoughts kept coming. Like it was a lot of racing thoughts where I would feel that my dad is also going to die. Like I stopped sleeping. I know that very clearly. Like at night, I would just keep sitting and watching my dad's chest go up and down. Like, acha, he
Okay.
zinda hai. I
Okay.
would look at I'll keep checking on my elder sister that if she's awake. If
And you
she's
were
not
11, 12
responding, I'll go
when
and
this
check.
was happening.
Yeah, 11. I was 11 at that time. And it was very difficult time for me, because nobody speaks about these things. Like one day my grandmother and my mother are there, and the next day they are not there. But then we're not talking about grief, we are not talking
Mm.
about what's happening to 11-year-old.
Mm.
And June my school is reopening, I have to go back to school.
Mm.
So I realized during that time I was getting a lot of these palpitations. Like I would have this breathlessness and palpitations, and I'd sweat a lot.
Mm.
And I'll just freeze in the classroom. I would not know, and there would be so many thoughts just going on, like voices in my head. They would
Mm.
just keep going on, but I didn't know whom to talk about, like whom to talk. Right, so I
Mm.
never spoke with anybody. I was just quiet, dealing with it in my own way. Like I used to pray a lot at that time, so I would have these books, these shloka books in my hand, and I would keep praying, and I would just keep doing that. I would dance a lot. I would read books. I
Mm.
used to be alone at home with my thoughts. So I couldn't be alone with even one moment. So I needed something to stimulate. So I
Mm.
would constantly read or dance. I would constantly do something, study a lot, make notes, do all of those things. And it kind of became like evident to others. I think when I was in eighth, ninth grade, like when exams used to happen, I used to get very scared, and I'm like constantly going to the bathroom, and I'm constantly like nausea, vomiting. A lot of that would start before the exams, and it would keep triggering. So that is when we reached out to a doctor, like what's happening at that time. And then the doctor said, nothing, it's all in your head, you should not worry, think of what you want, think positive. And then he told me to do some breathing exercises. He gave me some breathing exercises. And I think the diagnosis was not done, because I was also experiencing bronchitis. I had issue of breathlessness also, like
Yes.
bronchitis,
Okay.
bronchial asthma it was called. So I
Okay.
was experiencing that as well. So I think they misdiagnosed
There
it,
was
and I
probably
don't know what
overlap
happened
of
at that time.
symptoms.
But
Yeah.
yeah, yes, yes. So
Mhm.
that breathlessness was like an overlap. So
Mhm.
I think that might have happened. That's the only reason I could tell.
Mhm.
And we went to a general physician. We
Mhm.
didn't speak about all these things in the 90s, right?
We
So
did,
nobody spoke about
especially in
anxiety.
children,
Yeah,
identifying that children are also having anxiety. It was certainly not
exactly.
spoken about in those days, no.
Absolutely. So that just went off like that, and I would keep experiencing episodes multiple times when my dad would be late from office or my sister came late, and then it all like just went on and on. Like off and on, the episodes would be there, and so I was like, okay, chalta hai. And in my head, I would be like, God is punishing me because I didn't study. So
Mhm.
all these kind of things, how children make up
So
things and what
typical,
you're
yeah, so
told from
typical of
childhood.
children. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through all of that, and
Mhm.
it became very evident when my sister was going to get married. So that was when I was in college, and this was in the early 2000s, and she was going to get married. And that is the moment when it came up with a lot of severity. There was multiple repetitions of panic attacks, which now I know it was a panic attack. But
Mhm.
then I would just freeze in the college. I would be sitting in a lecture, and then suddenly I would feel that my chest is contracting and everything is closing on me, and I don't know, I am feeling difficulty to breathe, and I would just feel stuck, and all of that will happen, and nauseous, and all of that would happen. Dizziness,
Mhm.
lightheaded, multiple symptoms would just come up at that time in
Mhm.
college, and repeatedly, like weekly, one episode would happen, and after that, my entire body would pain. Like I'll just feel the exhaustion and all of that.
Mhm.
So that's when I think we properly consulted a doctor, and he gave me some mood stabilizing tablets at that time.
Okay.
And it was not like a psychiatrist or somebody, but my general
General
physician only
practitioner.
guided us to, yeah, I don't know if we really went to a psychiatrist or anybody. I don't have a memory of that, but I
Mhm.
remember taking those mood regulating pills for some time, mood stabilizing pills, and
Mhm.
it did help. Like for few, like I was able to study, I was able to function, the panic attacks had reduced, so
Mhm.
it was really helpful, and those racing thoughts had also
Mhm.
stopped, so it
Mhm.
kind of really helped me. And then it was all good. I was studying, I was doing everything, nothing happened, and then I kind of got married. And after my daughter's birth is when the depressive episode started. So
Okay.
that is when the feeling of worthlessness came in, hopelessness, like nothing, like I don't have anything to look forward to, the physical tiredness, I was not able to wake up and even do my basic chores like combing hair, taking a bath. All of that became a very struggle kind of a thing, and everybody around me thought I was lazy, like what kind of a mother I was, and all of that.
Mhm.
And during one of the discussions with my gynac is when he like I was not getting my periods properly, like my menstrual cycle had become off.
Mhm.
So I went to meet him, and he asked me to do some tests, and we figured out that tests were normal. So he said maybe there is something that's bothering you, and you can open up and talk to me. It was very good. He was very like I really thank him for that space that he provided so that I can open up. And
Mhm.
I just opened up everything about right from childhood, and I was just crying and told him everything. And that's when he told me that, Gayatri, maybe there is something which is deeper, you need to meet a psychiatrist. So that was my first step of taking help, because he told that this is not normal, and this could be dangerous if I don't take care of it immediately. It could be like a full blown mental health disorder, it can lead to that. So he said if you just go and work on it now, it will be helpful. And he gave me the same analogy of like the physical hurt, like how we go, like when the fever doesn't drop, you do go and consult a doctor. So then this is
Mhm.
also important. So I went, and then after talking to the psychiatrist, multiple tests and the writing exercises and all of that,
Mhm.
he said that maybe I've been going through depression right from childhood, and I don't
Okay.
know. And this has now come out after pregnancy, after my delivering my daughter. So that's when he put me on antidepressants, and I started taking them. So that time it was like I was not experiencing any anxiety, any racing thoughts or anything. Like it was
Okay.
all a lull. Like it was all like no energy. Like I'm just
Okay.
lying there and
Mhm.
numb, and there was nothing.
Numbness. Yeah,
That was
there
the
was no
experience. Yeah,
numbness.
a lot of numbness.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
and
when you were
not having
given, yeah.
interest. Yeah, please go ahead.
So when you were given that diagnosis, when you were then you were an adult and you were a mother and you were told, did you kind of know already that this is probably what I'm going through, or it came as a shock to you just as your
It came as
diabetes
a shock.
diagnosis came as an absolute
Yes.
shock?
Yeah. So this diagnosis, when it came, it was a lot of shame for me. I was ashamed that I'm not able to take care of myself.
Mm.
So I didn't tell this to anybody, not to my husband, not to my dad, nobody.
Okay.
And I was
Okay.
like taking up the medication, and I didn't go to therapy. I was still working in a job. I was doing all that, taking care of my everyday routine, whichever way was possible, pulling and pushing and fighting with it and doing it. And I think through the 2 years, I recognized office my performance was going very low. I wasn't able to perform. I wasn't able to kind of understand logic, and all of that was just going very down. And that's when I recognized maybe therapy is a must. Like I was taking
Okay.
medication and it was working, and still sometimes those symptoms would come, and suicidal thoughts were there and a lot of self-harm thoughts were there. So I said, no, maybe I need to start. So I started off with the therapist who my doctor had suggested, and it was more like a talk therapy. We were sitting talking about things and how am I feeling and all of that. It didn't help me quite, because it was like I would go there already feeling low. Like before office, I would go. I used to work in shifts, so afternoon shift tha, so I would go in the morning for the session and then go to work. So it didn't help. I would carry a lot of that low feeling again to the office. Like
Okay.
there was nothing which was resolving or nothing that was happening as such in those one-on-one sessions. So then I asked my doctor to recommend me somebody else. So again, I worked with another person. So
Okay.
like this, I had to shift 2 3 therapists for me to figure out that this is a person with whom this person really understands me, this
Understand.
person
Yeah.
really gets me what I'm going through. Okay,
Hmm.
otherwise the first therapist I went, it was more, I thought it was in my head, okay, nothing wrong about the therapist, but in my head that person is only qualified, like they don't understand what I'm going through, they are only here with the knowledge, they don't know what it is to experience life in a particular way, to grow up in a particular way, to experience a marriage in a different caste, and
Hmm.
be there and
Hmm.
navigate all these challenges. So I think my next therapist was somebody who I could connect with personally. She's no more now. I would really like to thank her. Like she was there, and she helped me out a lot with understanding myself, and she gave me a lot of knowledge. So it was not just sessions where she would just do work with me, it was more like knowledge. Like she would ask me, do you know about the brain? What are the different parts of your brain? Do you know what happens when you experience an emotion? Do you know about neurotransmitters? She used to ask me questions, and we, like, it was more like an active, I was an active participant
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
those therapy sessions. It was not like I would sit and she would tell me
Hmm.
that yeah, aise ho raha hai because of this, you are experiencing this because of this. So it
Hmm.
was not like that. It was not
That's a very
intellectual.
interesting approach.
Yeah,
That's a very interesting
yeah.
approach.
So every day when we would sit, we would start off with a somatic practice. We would start off by noticing what's happening in the body. And I remember that question very well. So she had asked me, like, when you feel hopeless, or when you feel that you are not good for anything, or when you feel that you're not good enough, she asked me this question: where do you feel it in the body? So that question had just opened up things for me, so that was really helpful. Rather than getting into the talk thing, it was more a somatic approach that she took, which really helped me to bodily release those emotions. Started, and so post the depressive episodes, I think once I healed and recovered from that phase of depression,
Hmm.
that's when anxiety restarted again for me. So I
Oh,
was now scared, any kind of low feeling I'm getting in the body, I was scared, am I going back to depression? So
okay.
that's when it started triggering again. Again, the thoughts kept coming. Arey, I did some mistake in the office. It would start. Arey, वापस चालू हो गया. तुझे problem हो गया. All that self talk would start again, and then I'm like, God, now what's happening?
Hmm.
So now it was like more again in the physical space, chest
Hmm.
tightening and all of that, breath issues, and before a
Hmm.
meeting in the office, it would start.
Hmm.
And that's when the anxiety space again started. So again, I
Okay.
went back to therapy.
Okay.
Again, I worked with it and all of that, and then I kind of came like 2013-14, I came into a space wherein, like, okay, I'm in a better space now and all that. And then I quit my job. I was working
Hmm.
with my therapist only for her sessions and her
Hmm.
clients who were like
Hmm.
beginning clients and all that.
Okay.
So I did all of these different courses and all of that, so I was in a much better space at that time.
Hmm.
And then many till 2020, I can say I was in a very good space.
Okay.
2020 pandemic started, and again the anxious episode started, because now again there was panic all over. Like I think
Hmm.
everybody was in that,
Everybody was in
most
a
of
state
us
of
were in
panic.
that space. Yeah, everybody was in that space. We experienced so much of loss and so many
Hmm.
challenging situations, that a lot of information coming in our way, like I
Hmm.
said. And
Hmm.
again, and then by 2021, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, peak of anxiety, I can say, at that time, because very anxious, because dad also had an history of diabetes and heart problems, so health anxiety too. So again, it kind of peaked up
Hmm.
and down. And that's when I came to a space wherein I'm not going to fight it anymore,
Hmm.
because I was in that space that I want to get rid of it. I was in
Rid
that
of
space
it.
that I don't want to experience it.
So
So I
today,
was kind of resisting and fighting. Yeah.
so
So
today, are
today
you
I can say
afraid
I am
of
in a
it?
much better space.
Are you
No,
still
I'm not
afraid of
afraid of it.
anxiety?
No, no, not at all. I kind of like, I would thank all my work that I did, and I was in that space where, okay, it is there. I took it up. Yeah, it's going to be there.
It's
So
going to
how
be
do I
there.
handle it and manage it? Yeah. So
Correct.
manage it in a way, because yes, with a chronic illness, I do get flares up. There are moments when sugar shoots up. So
Correct.
the
Yes.
anxious thoughts do come in. Yeah, they
Mm.
do come in at that moment. So I need to know how to navigate it. I need to surf
Mm.
it. Like the waves are going to be there.
Perfect.
It's my
I
choice
think when you
now.
change that
Yeah.
perspective, it makes a big difference
Yes.
because in these anxiety circles, I've seen a lot of people use the word setback or a relapse.
Yeah.
I think that, you can use this word probably for something like cancer, where you are saying that now there is no cancer cell in your body. So when you have a cancer
Yeah.
diagnosis again, you say there's a relapse or it's come back. But I feel when we use it for something
Mhm.
like anxiety, where there are going to be days when you may be anxious, or there may be an episode or a phase in your life where the anxiety is high and then it comes back. Because then I think what happens, we
Exactly.
stay in that circle of being afraid of what if I have anxiety again and I go back to that cell.
Exactly.
But I think you have beautifully, first of all, thank you so much, Gayatri, for sharing this everything about your so much trauma you went through in childhood. Right from childhood it started, and it's not been an easy journey for you at all. Gone through so much. Thanks for sharing, being so open, vulnerable, and also sharing that even after having the tools, even after reading so much,
Yes,
being in the
yeah.
self-help space, we all have these ups and downs, because I've experienced it myself being a yoga trainer. I never considered myself as being an anxious person. I said, no, I'm not anxious. Anxiety is not something that, defines me. But around 2 years ago, when I had my first panic attack, it got me thinking that when was the last time I had experienced, or the other, the first time I had experienced these sensations or these feelings and these fears. And then when I kept going back, I realized that I had experienced this as a child. And it's not
Yeah.
something that you even realize, or, because first of all, and just like you, I also had to sort of take my time to accept it that yes, I am having anxiety, I am dealing with panic attacks, because you
Yes.
define yourself as a certain way, in a certain manner. So thank you so much for sharing
Exactly.
this. And today, from all that you know, what are your non-negotiables when it comes to anxiety? What is it that you would tell somebody, and what is it that in your life also, ups and downs happen, things happen, but you
Yeah.
already told me about sleep and stuff, but in a nutshell, what are the things that you would say that you would, if these are in place, then you can sort of tide the wave a little bit more easily?
Yeah. Thank you for putting that up, Grace. Like saying that you experienced it, and you being a yoga teacher, yes, because that is something I hear a lot. Like, you are an emotional regulation coach. How, like, when I put up, like, I'm very human in my page on my Instagram. I don't put it up that you
Yes,
can get
yes,
rid of
I do.
anxiety,
Yes,
or you
yes.
can get rid
You
of
keep
these
it
things.
very
I
real.
talk about my episodes. Yeah.
Everything, even about
So
your
I get a
diabetes
lot of
diagnosis and
DMs.
everything. Yes.
Yes, yeah. So there have been times when people have DM'd me and said, like, you being an emotional regulation coach, you shouldn't position yourself like this.
Oh,
You shouldn't be
really?
talking about this. Yeah, like, how can you get anxiety episode? Like, you shouldn't be getting it, right? So this is a very like a common myth or a common thing. It's like saying a cardiologist will never get a heart attack. That's not how it is, right? We are humans. So you being a yoga teacher, again, you know a lot about breath work, a lot about movement and all of that. So in our head, we tend to generalize it because of the conditioning around that. Yeah, mujhe kaise ho gaya? Like, how am
Mm,
I experiencing it? I shouldn't be experiencing
mm,
it. And like you said, we kind of identify, we put it that I'm an anxious person. You're not an
mm.
anxious person. You're somebody who's experiencing it in a particular context, in a
Correct.
particular way, in a particular time, in a particular intensity.
Hmm.
Okay, so getting into these final details really help. So now I'm at a space where I'm like navigating. I'm like, okay, there are moments when I would get it. Like I said, during travel, it does happen. So I'm very particular about it. So I take care of my diet when I'm traveling, not eating very junk and all that. Diet has been the main change that I've done in the last 2 3 years. So which has really helped me. And sleep again.
Hmm.
What are my non-negotiables when I'm traveling or anything, or when I'm like always have with me is, one is something to like to break my sensory input, like to
Okay.
have a sensory disruption that really helps. So
Okay.
one is like a smell. Like smell really helps you to break that sensory disruption.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like I'll have something like a lemon or a ginger. I have my
Strong
perfume
smell.
in my bag, the David F. Yeah, some smell. So for me, it's David of cool water.
Cool
It's
water.
like I have like a small. It's always there in all my bags. Like small uska maine dabbi bana ke. I have kept it in all my like small bag and a big bag and everything. So
Okay.
jo bhi bag uthao, it will always be there smell. And if I have access to fresh flowers like mogra, the smell
Hmm.
of jasmine, that's something I always carry with me. It really helps me to keep that sense of like
Hmm.
the smell disruption. Then taste again really helps. I have the sour candies with
Candy.
me, like pulses,
Chili
something,
candy.
yeah, candies, imli candy or something sour, so that can immediately, or something
Hmm.
kadwa, so something like that, or avla, having chewing on avla. So these are all things. that help you to disrupt the taste. Okay, so there is smell, then there is taste, and then there is music, obviously. So I really love listening to Rag Yaman. Rag Yaman really soothes me when I kind of have those racing thoughts. It really helps me. So flute in Rag Yaman really helps me. So you can try what is it for you. You can try that. So that has been the third thing which is really helpful. Fourth, since I'm also navigating type 2 diabetes, I have a card in my bag. So if I experience something like that, I immediately show the card to people next to me. I remember once I was traveling back from Pune in the train, Vande Bharat, and I was experiencing panic attack. And I was like, now I'm going to, like, it's very difficult for me. I need somebody. So physical touch, kind of some, especially in the back, like rubbing the back here, like rubbing the back here can really helps me. It's again very personal. You cannot just generalize it. Each person is very different. So I think that's where the challenge with anxiety, depression, or any mental health challenge comes, is each person is going to experience it in a different way, in a different intensity. So you cannot generalize saying that box breathing works. Like for me, box breathing doesn't work. Yeah,
Neither
or
does it
grounding
for me.
activities don't work. Yeah, so it doesn't work for me. Yeah, so for me, long exhalations work. Yeah, so for me, double inhale and a long exhalation works. So these are all very customized things wherein you do certain practices and come to a place like, yes, these are my non-negotiables. So for me, that card is there in my bag, or in my phone I have the version of that card wherein I show, and like, it's a very pictorial description of what I need sometimes, because sometimes I don't have access to certain things. So cold temperature shifting also helps, placing an ice cube or a cold water bottle on my neck, on my wrist. It really helps me to reduce the intensity, so I'm in a space to think. Yeah, I'm in a much better space. Okay, kya ho raha hai? I'm in that
I
space.
think these are all
Otherwise,
very
it's just
helpful.
going on. Yeah, these are all very helpful things for me. They have helped me, and always having support. Like I've taught my daughter and my husband as well how to, if I'm having an attack, how to help me with it, to, to be with me and not tell me calm down, or tell me to take a gehri saas lo and all that. So I've taught them to just
Right.
be with me, to ask me, like, if I would want a hug, or if I would want a physical touch, like to
Mm-hmm.
inquire with me and just be there with me and help me with long exhalations, because that really helps. So like, I remember my daughter, we did like a demo, like a role play kind of, like how to
Okay.
help me out with that.
Okay.
So these are things like support really helps, that really helps. These are all things which
Okay.
help me. So when you
That's helpful,
sensorily
I think. Yeah.
disrupt something, it
Yeah. It
helps
would
when
be
you
helpful to
sensorily
anybody who is
disrupt. Yeah,
experiencing intense
yeah,
anxiety. Are there
yeah,
some
yeah.
books that you could recommend for someone who is wanting to know? And are there any books?
I'll take a moment for this. I think I have written it down. I'll just
Okay.
come to that. There are many books. Like there are a lot. I would recommend 4 5 which you can begin with. I think they are really helpful. They helped me when I was. So one was this one, Hope and Help for Your Nerves. Okay, by Dr.
Headway.
Claire Weeks.
Hmm.
That's something which has really helped.
Hmm.
Then there is one by Owen Kane. He talks about how to be your own therapist. So
Okay.
that's again a very good book, How to Be Your Own Therapist by Owen Kane. Then there is one by Dr. Caroline Leaf, which is Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess.
Okay.
That has also really helped me. So again, these are all written by therapists and psychologists. So very good books to read and get a lot of new perspectives. The
Hmm.
thing is, when the perception of anxiety shifts, the way you
Hmm.
think about anxiety shifts, a lot
A lot
shifts.
of it shifts.
Because
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, because it's not that you're going to die because of a
Yeah.
panic attack. Like
Yeah.
that
Because you
might
stop
not
getting
happen. Like
afraid
I
of
don't
it.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is not spoken about now. Because I remember in my childhood, my aunt or my grandmother, they used to also talk about this bechani that they
Hmm.
experience, or
Hmm.
the heaviness in the
Hmm.
chest, or they would speak about these things in ways which was not labeled as anxiety.
Anxiety.
But
Yes.
now when I look, yeah, but now when I look back at it, I mean, it could be that, right? The butterflies in the
Yeah.
stomach could
Absolutely. Yes.
be
Yes.
something intense. Yeah, we
Yes.
don't know that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Then there is one by Martha Beck, which is Beyond Anxiety. So I would say
Okay.
these are like 4 5 books to
Okay.
begin with, and
Okay.
then there are many. I can send you the list so you can put
Okay.
it
I
in
could
the description
put
if you
these, yeah,
want.
in the description.
Yeah, you can put
So,
it in the
Gayatri, I
description.
am going to
Yes.
conclude this. Yeah, I can go on and on talking to
Sure.
you. I
Yeah.
had
Yes,
decided to
yes.
talk to you in a certain structure, and the entire structure is
Yeah.
going out of the window because that's what happens when you talk to Gayatri. It just becomes so easy to talk to you about things. And I have enjoyed this conversation so much. We're going to
Same
do a
here.
follow up. Okay, you have to give me time, and we will
Sure.
do a follow up on this,
Yeah.
getting into the details of emotional regulation and share more as to how people can do it, because I think therapy also a little bit I want to talk about that with therapy these days. I think it's also very expensive, and like you said, you
Yes.
have to literally go shopping for a therapist, and
Yeah, yeah.
you end up
Yes.
spending a lot of
Yeah.
your time, effort, hope, money, everything, till you find the right therapist. And it's not necessary that you may get help, but till then, if you're able to help
What
yourself
do you
in
do?
some way,
Yeah.
yeah, so you
Yes.
do
Yeah, yeah. There
some
is there, there are a lot of things. Yes. There are
Yeah.
a lot of things that we can do ourselves as well in this
Hmm.
space, and it all ends up in the intensity of it. Like if you're having a normal sprain, you will be taking care at home. You will be like, okay,
Correct.
let me just put
Correct.
some
Yes.
compression,
Yes.
let me apply a spray, let me apply the band-aid and all of
Hmm.
that, and let me do that. But if that is a fracture which is intense, you
Yeah.
need
It needs a different
professional
approach.
help. So
Yes.
yeah, so it's
And
also helpful to know that. And talking about expense, I would say that one thing that really helps is when you're reaching out to a therapist, you can ask them for any, if they have any free slots, or it's about questioning, it's about asking, do they take
ah,
EMI, or do
okay.
they have affordable sessions? I can vouch that there are multiple therapists and coaches out there who do give these things. Like me myself, like during, now this is
I
May
know
Mental
you
Health
have done
Month,
a
I
lot
do
of
offer
it.
a lot of,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yes. So I have seen also, like even my therapist I worked with, she took money in EMIs. I was not having that money at that time to give for therapy, and I didn't believe that I needed to spend that much. So I used to always ask her like if I can give on EMI, and I would give it on EMI. So these are spaces which you can, like reading these books can also be really helpful,
Yes.
changing
Yes.
your perspectives, checking for support groups. Like if you have any support groups in your area, these days there are a lot of support groups which come up, and
Mhm.
that is also really helpful. So these are spaces where you can start off with if you are really not in the space to give that, spend that money. And I do agree, yes, it is expensive. And also time, it's not
Hmm.
only about the money, it's about time. Like you're so busy, you're working, you're
Yeah.
a new mom,
Yeah.
maybe navigating so many things, your day is already busy. Taking one
Actually.
hour out of that and sitting for
Yes.
therapy,
Yeah.
and it's not just 1 hour,
It's
after that
not
one
just
hour
one
you
hour.
might still
Exactly.
feel low.
Yeah.
Yeah. So time is also equally important. So you need to recognize that create alternative support systems, people where, like I told you, like having a space of expression, having a space where you can, like somebody, at least one person who is that non-judgmental person where you can talk to them and have that something for you. These are all spaces which you can work simultaneously if you're not yet ready to
Hmm.
invest the time and money for therapy.
Hmm. All right, Gayatri. We'll catch up soon. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you so
Bye.
much, Grace. Yes, thank you so much. Take care.